The Skoda Tour of Luxembourg has been amazing. The weather's been a delight, but not on the final day. The rain clouds came, a damp road surface, and a lot of trepidation out there. Looking magnificent, Mil Morak in the King of the Mountains jersey, assembling so many points in the break. It looked nailed on that he would at least take that title. But with 4 climbs out there, a bonus sprint as well, and a coveted stage win up for grabs, who might be tempted to get up the road? In the end, the clouds did not brighten or indeed diminish the mood of these guys. 12 went off the front. Gogol for Ampersand, Gurniek from Arkea, Decathlon 82R had Bissiger up there, Max Walker from EF Education, Theo Gegenhardt made the trip for Lidl, Palani for Groupama, Pedersen for Soudal Quickstep, along with Bice, Urati, Wenzel, Gashinar and Holter. This was something very special. So, what sort of gap might they achieve? And could they indeed steal a stage win by the end of the day? Well, yes, that was on the cards. 3 minutes was the maximum, and then it was starting to be pared back. So who was doing the chasing? That was the big question. Well, the men in blue, Groupama-FDJ, possibly getting greedy, thinking of an upset. Brandon McNulty, our glorious leader, coming into the day, but the peloton was splitting under the hammer blows being issued by Groupama-FDJ. They wanted this. Romain Grégoire had taken the opening stage. He'd ceded the leader's jersey. Didn't have such a great time trial when Brandon McNulty finished second to Ethan Hayter. And as a result, McNulty was always going to be the favourite. But you know what? Status like that has to be tested. And that's what we had here. The gap was coming down. Would the breakaway survive was the big question. As we passed by the Uzal Danga Castle, the hairpins and the road surface were starting to worry. The rain had come, we had standing water in certain parts of the course, and by the time we got to our final circuit, which had characterised this race, it was something to worry about. Joining the fun with Tudor Pro Cycling, presumably wanting to work for the Grand Duke himself, Mark Hirschi. Marco Brenner would not be part of proceedings, he sadly abandoning before the end of the final day, always a bad thing for any rider, and it was handshakes all round by our breakaway. Well, not all of them. Last chance of glory, last roll of the dice. Ender Palani went up the road, taking with him Mats Wenzel. They were going for last man standing, maybe a combativity prize by the end of the day. But who from the peloton might be tempted with the gap now less than a minute? The climbs here and the falls, which would come on this day in the wet, were going to define it. Wenzel alone up front. He had Uriarte as a teammate. That was the only blessing as far as the break was concerned. Always good to have a man at hand, and a good man he is as he headed for the Pabiaber. But they were closing, and it was a time to reach out potentially for a bit of glory, or maybe a lot. Ben Healy is a terrier. He went for it straight on his back wheel. Who else other than Romain Grégoire? Hirschi thought about it as well. Sat back down and thought, let's see how this one develops. With 2 laps to go, the last man standing from the break. Wenzel crossed the line, but he had pursuers here. They were bridging over to the rest of the breakaway. Wenzel made an escape, but only by a modest margin. 13 seconds was the gap that he held, and Healy was on his case. Likewise with Grégoire, and that is a proper fighting force. Could they hold it until the end? The gap still narrowing. Maybe bonus seconds would factor into this by the end. Hirschi just wanted a bit of glory when he comes so close on this race. Set off early, don't forget, on stage 3. Faded to 6th by going too soon. And he made the same mistake again. Well, as the weather got worse and the water becoming more of a factor, and it did indeed for Mats Wenzel, coming into this hairpin to take them, of course, back to that start-finishing line. He lost the back wheel momentarily and backed out of it. Safety first. This is crazy, he thought. He might have been right. Mark Hirschi also pulled the pin, said, forget this, and guess who was doing the chasing now? UAE Team Emirates, of course, with Brandon McNulty, his leader's jersey still shrouded in a rain cape. Meanwhile, pair up front, They were sharing the spoils as we crossed the line to take the bell. So, bring it home. Well, a big ask. UAE chasing. Any help for Healy wasn't going to come from Richard Carapaz, unfortunately. Quick bike change for him. Everyone else thinking about the finale, but also looking at the gap. Minute 9. They were reassembling themselves, but not as a fighting force. In fact, UAE Team Emirates riders had done their job for Brandon McNulty. He would have to fight for himself at the end. And so the drive went on, 2.3 kilometers from home, and ultimately Benzel was going to be caught on the Pabierberg once more. 15% gradients. Nobody was having a laugh here, but somebody would be grinning at the end of the day, and that man surely was going to be Romain Grégoire. He kicked on, drove away at the Flamme Rouge, left a big gap between himself and Ben Healy. Healy would be runner-up on the day, but there was bonus seconds out there, and some were losing their chain, maybe losing their minds. A title up for grabs. What would the clock say? Grégoire knew that every second counts, including the bonuses. He was going to take a hatful, but would it be enough to move him within the overall classification? Ben Healy was charging into the gap, but Grégoire held on for a fabulous win, bookending this race and holding up the dual fingers at the end of this one. Mission accomplished by him. Stage win. Could the prize be even greater? The clock began to count. Well, we had ourselves a sprint, and Brandon McNulty at a moment such as this brought the leader's blue and gold jersey to the front. Looked for all intents and purposes that he would cross the line in third place. But I've got to tell you that Sarah Ryman had other ideas through the bike, nicked the bonus seconds, and the gap was set. Well, it's crazy, said Grégoire. So after 5 days of racing, for it to end in a sprint, I've ended this brilliantly so. I've absolutely loved it. I just wanted to give absolutely everything on such a difficult race, and so I'm just so grateful. And we are to him as well. 2 stage wins for Grégoire. Coming home out of Healy, Romain, McNulty, Carapaz, your top 5. Hershey in 7th place behind Paris Peintre. And what about this man? Brandon McNulty. He is our champion. Carapaz wanted to hold on, of course, to a podium spot, which he got. Chelmos was runner-up. McNulty our champion by a margin of 47 seconds. What a great race. Always is when we come to Luxembourg for the Skoda Tour.